Hello and welcome. Thanks for joining us. I am Angela Shante Johnson, the president of the Los Angeles chapter of the Women's National Book Association. Before we get started, make sure to follow us on social media at WNBALA and use the hashtag Judy Lopez Award to stay connected on social. As a children's book author myself and a lover of all things kidlit, I'm thrilled to be invited to celebrate this award ceremony with you. The Women's National Book Association has over 100 years of track record in supporting books by and for women. I'm thrilled to be a part of this organization, and I'm thrilled to continue this tradition. As the new kid on the block, I am dedicated to expanding our programming and diversity initiatives in the greater Los Angeles area. And I'm humbled to be kicking off the 37th annual Judy Lopez Award ceremony. So let's start the celebration.
Good afternoon, and welcome to the 37th annual presentation of the Judy Lopez Memorial Award for Children's Literature. I'm glad you've joined us for this virtual presentation of our prestigious national award. I'm Suzanne Kleinbuck, a longtime member of the Women's National Book Association and a member of the organizing committee for the Judy Lopez Award. The Women's National Book Association was established in 1917 before women in America had the right to vote. The WNBA's founding idea that books have power and that those involved in their creation gain strength from joining forces reaches across the decades to now serve members across the country. I would like to start by telling you a little bit about Judy Lopez and the history of the award. Judy was a bookseller, a buyer for the California State University bookstore, and one of the founders of the Los Angeles chapter of the Women's National Book Association. Judy recognized the need to develop a child's love of books early in life, particularly during the ages of 9 through 12, when there are so many distractions in a young person's life. Judy died in 1985. Her family wished to honor her memory by establishing the Judy Lopez Foundation to support the Judy Lopez Memorial Award for Children's Literature. The award is given yearly to a book published in the United States during the preceding year and written for ages 9 to 12. The award-winning title receives a specially engraved bronze medal designed by sculptor Alex Shagan. Up to 4 honor titles are also selected. So now, a big welcome to all, and thank you for joining us.
All right, ladies, are you ready to see what all your hard work and all that reading that you've been doing for the past few months has come to?
Yes.
Our 2022 Judy Lopez Memorial Award winner is...
Yes.
Oops, out of focus, but how to find what you're not looking for, which of course is out of focus. But there it is.
All right. Excellent.
Well done, ladies.
I first became aware of Lisa Phipps and her book Starfish, a novel in verse, in February 2021, when I participated in the Booklist and Penguin Young Readers Feminist Reads Spotlight on Body Positivity webinar. Listening to Lisa talk about her book made me want to rush right out and read it, which I did. To say that Lisa's story left me overcome with a range of emotions is an understatement. Though her story is about a big girl who is brutally bullied for her weight, it is really about what it takes to help one find their voice and to find the self-confidence necessary to take their rightful space, in spite of what the mean people do to humiliate and diminish you. Ellie's story begins at her 5th birthday party, for which she is super excited, but her joy is completely obliterated after she does a cannonball into her pool and her older sister calls her Splash. And her brother makes comments about all of the water being forced out of the pool. Ellie is humiliated and her birthday party ruined, and she somewhat buries, yet she also carries the deep hurt of that horrible moment throughout grade school and middle school. The hurt is compounded ever so frequently by her brother, bullies at school, and very disturbingly by her mother. I cried, I gasped, I got angry, I felt distraught, I sympathized and empathized, and as Ellie's story went on, I grew to love and care for Ellie, and I loudly cheered her on. Lisa Phipps tells an incredibly important story that is her story about other people's issues with her weight. Yet the lessons of her story are applicable to anyone who is othered and bullied for being different, whether it be for skin color, religion, language spoken, clothes worn, gender, or body size. Thank you, Lisa, for writing this book and for affirming the importance of finding your voice and taking up your rightful space. And now it is my profound pleasure to introduce you to Lisa Phipps, author of Starfish, one of this year's Judy Lopez Memorial Award honor books.
Hello to the Los Angeles chapter of the Women's National Book Association. My name is Lisa Phipps, and I am the author of Starfish. And you won't believe how many other takes there were of this, in which I held that upside down. So I wish I could hear some applause in person right now for that, because it's a major achievement for me at the moment. So anyway, there you know a little bit about me and how dorky I can be. But in all seriousness, I am creating this video to thank you sincerely for naming Starfish a 2022 Judy Lopez Memorial Award honor book. When I found out about the award, I was so excited learning about your association and Judy. What a legacy. If we can all leave a legacy like Judy, the world would be a much better place. For those of you who don't know about Starfish, Starfish is a novel in verse, and it is appropriate for middle grade and young adult readers. And it is about a girl named Ellie who is bullied relentlessly because of her weight. She is fat. And so the book tells the story of her journey as she starts to realize that maybe, just maybe, there's something wrong with the bullies of the world, the mean people. Maybe they're the ones who need to change instead of all the people who get bullied. And so I'm going to leave it at that, because I don't know how many of you have heard of it or read it. So I want to make sure that I leave that space for you to explore it on your own. One of the things I always tell people about Starfish is that it is Ellie's story, but I used my experiences and my emotions to tell it. And so everything that you read in there happened to me in one form or another. And so there are some of the poems that people read and they say, oh, this would never happen. People would never do this to another human. Well, they did. And they do. And it's not just a book that people who are fat can relate to. It's a book that anyone who has been bullied for being different can relate to. And you know what I'm finding? All of us at one point or another seem to have been bullied or made to feel bad for being different. And the bananas part of it all that I still cannot completely wrap my head around is the fact that there's, 8 billion people on the planet, and we're all different from one another. All. Even twins have differences. And yet we hurt each other and make fun of each other and bully each other and destroy each other with our words, all because we're different. And so I'm so honored again that this is a book chosen by you guys. I'm thankful for all that you do. And feel free to reach out to me if you'd like. I have a website, authorlisafipps.com. Just remember to spell Phipps with an F. Some people spell it with a PH and they never find me. And so I hope to meet some of you in person. And gosh, I just hate that COVID is keeping us away from each other. But I'm so glad to meet you, at least virtually. Thanks so much.
Rajani La Roca was born in southern India, grew up in Louisville, Kentucky, and later attended Harvard College and Harvard Medical School. She currently lives with her family in the Boston area, where she is a practicing physician and mother to 2 young adult children. Her growing body of work includes middle grade novels and picture books. Set in 1983, Red, White, and Whole introduces readers to thoughtful 13-year-old Reha, who feels caught between 2 worlds. American-born Reha feels set apart by her dark skin and hair in her Midwestern middle school. On weekends, she and her parents visit friends in their tight-knit Indian American community, where they celebrate Indian holidays and eat traditional foods. An only child, Reha loves her parents and understands the sacrifices they've made. Reha's mother abandoned her own medical studies when she became a mother and now works as a blood technician. Reha hopes to fulfill her hardworking parents' expectations. She studies hard and dreams of being a doctor someday. In middle school, Reha notices her classmates' interests have shifted, but Reha and best friend Rachel still raise their hands in class discussions. Away from school, the friends dance and sing along to MTV and wonder if Reha's strict parents will allow her to attend the upcoming school dance. Reha is also drawn to Pete, a thoughtful boy whose eyes change color with his moods. When Reha's mother is diagnosed with leukemia, Reha's world cracks in 2 once again. As she faces potentially devastating loss, Reha comes to understand that her mother has understood her and seen her all along. This captivating novel with well-realized characters and themes of finding oneself, of loss and resilience, will win the hearts of readers young and old. And now, it is my pleasure to introduce you to Rajani La Roca, author of Red, White, and Whole, one of this year's Judy Lopez Memorial Award honor books.
Hi, this is Rajani La Roca, author of Red, White, and Whole, and I'm so grateful that Red, White, and Whole has won a Judy Lopez Memorial Award honor this year. Thank you so much for selecting me and my book. I wanted to tell you a little bit about how I came to write Red, White, and Whole. So for those of you who aren't familiar, Red, White, and Whole is set in 1983, and it is about a 13-year-old girl named Reha who feels torn between the worlds of her Indian American parents and her friends at school who are mostly white. Just like any normal teenager, she wants to wear cool clothes, listen to awesome music, and go to a middle school dance. But her parents, and especially her mother, feel like she has better things to do with her time. So Reha is struggling with this when she finds out that her mother has been diagnosed with a kind of blood cancer called leukemia, and her whole world is turned upside down. Reha feels that if she could just be the perfect daughter, the daughter that her parents want her to be, she can somehow save her mother's life. One other thing I'll note is that Red, White, and Whole is written in poetry, so it is a verse novel. The idea for this book came to me as a metaphor, and the metaphor was of blood and all that it means in terms of biology, but also in terms of family and community. And I thought, since the idea came to me as a metaphor, that maybe I should write it in verse. But I had never written a verse novel before. I had written poetry and I had written picture books that were lyrical, but never an entire novel. So I basically went and read every verse novel for children that I could get my hands on. And after doing that and enjoying them, I thought, I think maybe I can do this. And so I just tried. Now, I had another novel due, and so I couldn't work on Red, White, and Whole by itself. So it became my Friday night date, where every Friday night I would allow myself to think about this book. I didn't often write for a long time. I just listened to music from 1983 and 84 and thought about my characters and thought about the general story. And then once I turned in that other novel, I wrote Red, White, and Whole, and I just let it pour out of me. And I let the poems happen in whatever order they wanted to happen in my head. And it was only later on in revision that I decided what order they should be in for the book. So Red, White, and Whole, the story is very close to my heart. Lots of emotions in the story came from my real life. So I was 13 in 1983, and I knew what it was like to wonder which was the real me, the weekday American, the girl at school, or the weekend Indian, because I spent almost all my weekends with my parents and our Indian community. So that was something that was very real for me. The other thing is that, growing up in the 80s, I loved 80s music in particular. So there's a lot of musical references in the book, including titles of many of the poems. And Reha in the story feels like music connects her to everyone around her, Indian and American. And I felt the same way when I was growing up. And then also one of the other autobiographical elements of this book is that when I was a teen, my mom didn't have cancer, but she was in a very bad car accident and suffered a traumatic brain injury. And at that time, like Reha, I knew that I wanted to go into medicine. But when my mom was injured and was in the hospital for weeks and months, I had to rethink that, because just entering the hospital made me sick to my stomach. And I thought, oh my goodness, if I can't do this now, how am I ever going to be a doctor? And obviously I got over that, and I ended up going to medical school and becoming a doctor. But it's something that Reha really struggles with in the book.
So there are a few things that I hope readers get from Red, White, and Whole. One is that none of us is just one thing, and that we all have multiple aspects to our personalities and our lives, and we don't have to choose between them, that we can be all of them. Another thing that I hope readers get is that the notion of belonging is very interesting, but that ultimately we decide where we belong. And more importantly, we create the communities in which everyone belongs. It is our duty to fellow human beings to make sure that we have places where we all belong, no matter where we come from, what we look like, what religion we practice, or who we love. And finally, I hope that young readers especially understand that one of the messages of Red, White, and Whole is that all of our stories matter, that your story matters in particular. And as somebody who grew up in the United States, not reading any books about people like me, and then also visiting my relatives in India and not reading any books there about people like me, I finally understood the value of seeing yourself reflected in a book when I was an adult. And then when I started writing for children, I realized that I could provide that mirror for many people, and that also I could help other people who didn't grow up in the same way that I did understand what it was like to be someone like me, and realize maybe that we all have more in common than we believe. So once again, thank you so much for choosing Red, White, and Whole for a Judy Lopez Memorial Award honor this year. This is Rajni Laraka saying goodbye. Thank you.
War disrupts civilians, and so it was with the Mexican Revolution, particularly for the poor, the illiterate, the mestizos. 12-year-old Petraluna has a lot riding on her. In the past year, her mother died in childbirth, and her father was conscripted by the Federales. Before her father was torn from her, Petra promised to take care of her family, and he swore to return. 6 months later, the Federales come back and burn down the village. The one item Petra retrieves from her burning home is a piece of coal, a gift from her father. To her, it is more than a piece of black rock, it is a baby diamond. According to her father, when a piece of coal gets squeezed very hard for a long time, it becomes a diamond. It's the same with people. When life's big problems squeeze you hard, you grow stronger. You grow up to shine like a diamond. Petra and her grandmother, sister and baby brother are forced into the desert to escape from the Federales. Their story is harrowing and quite unfathomable in parts, yet they are all survivors. Led by Petra, who is fueled by her determination to keep her promise to her father and to lead her family to safety. Throughout it all, Petra maintains her dream to learn to read, which her grandmother calls a barefoot dream. Barefoot Dreams of Petra Luna is based on the story of Alda's great-grandmother's experience, fleeing Mexico as a child during the Mexican Revolution. She escaped her burning village with her father, 2 younger siblings, and 2 cousins, and they made their way by foot through the desert to the United States, only to be denied entry, though eventually allowed to enter. Alda grew up hearing these stories from her great-grandmother and her grandmother, and she thought it was an important story to tell. With her great-grandmother in mind, Alda created Petra Luna, an amazing character, strong, determined, brave, loyal to her family, always hopeful, and so very likable. Petra Luna shines like her black diamond. It is my profound pleasure to introduce you to Alda P. Dobbs, author of Barefoot Dreams of Petra Luna, one of this year's Judy Lopez Memorial Award honor books.
Hello, my name is Alda P. Dobbs, and I am the author of Barefoot Dreams of Petra Luna and its follow-up book story, The Other Side of the River. Both books were inspired by stories from my family that I grew up with, particularly stories from my grandmother and my great-grandmother, especially my great-grandmother, because she was the one who endured the Mexican Revolution back in 1913. And she had to flee her village when it was being attacked by the Federales. And just like Petra Luna, she crossed the desert with her family, and her goal was to reach the American side because she knew once she crossed the river, she'd be safe. And the follow-up book, Petra Luna is now a refugee in Texas, just like my great-grandmother. And the book is also filled with experiences and anecdotes that my great-grandmother told. And I'm very honored because Barefoot Dreams of Petra Luna was selected as an honor book by the Judy Lopez Memorial Awards. So thank you so much for that honor. And I encourage young readers or all readers to seek family stories just like I did, because there's so much to learn from them. We see that history repeats itself, and when readers, especially young readers, are aware about this, they realize that they could prevent this history from happening again or be better prepared to confront that history. So thank you so much. I hope I get to meet you at an event, and keep asking those questions, get those family stories out there. Thank you.
When your sister meets a nice boy from India and wants to marry him, instead of the nice Jewish boy expected by your parents, everything changes. Your sister elopes and your parents disown her. Your parents' bakery is up for sale and you will have to move. You face bullying in school for being Jewish. And there is the continuing issue about your handwriting. 11-year-old Ariel Goldberg faces all of this in Vera Hiranandani's How to Find What You're Not Looking For, a work inspired by her own parents' interracial and interfaith marriage. Ariel can't understand why her parents cut her sister out of the family just because Leah fell in love with Raj. Ari's parents refuse to talk to her about adult issues, Leah and the bakery, just as they won't take action against Ari's bully and cannot comprehend Ari's difficulties with handwriting. When her 6th grade teacher has the class write poetry, Ari discovers her capability to capture her feelings on paper for the first time and uses poetry to express her observations and feelings, which lead her to act. To Ariel, it's simple. Leah is family. Families love each other. Set in 1967, this story incorporates the Supreme Court ruling in the Loving versus Virginia case that any state laws banning interracial marriage were unconstitutional, as well as Martin Luther King Jr. It is a story told in flawless second person, making Ari's voice immediate and present, her confusion and frustration with her rapidly changing world, her deep love for her sister and the bakery, as she discovers her own strengths. Hate cannot drive out hate. Only love can do that. Martin Luther King Jr., 1963. I am so honored to present Vera Hiranandani, the author of How to Find What You're Not Looking For, the winner of the 2022 Judy Lopez Memorial Award for Children's Literature.
Hi, I'm Vera Hiranandani, and I want to thank the Judy Lopez Memorial Award Committee for this great honor for How to Find What You're Not Looking For. This book was inspired by my own parents' history. They got married in 1968, and my mother was born in this country, and she's Jewish, and my father was born in India, and he's Hindu, and they met a few years before 1968, probably 1966, and then they got married, and my mother's parents, my Jewish grandparents, were not in favor of the marriage in the beginning, and my father's parents weren't living anymore, but he had several siblings who were also disappointed that he wasn't marrying somebody Hindu. And so my parents decided to get married anyway. And when I think back about that time, I think about how brave they were. And I wanted to sort of explore some of the themes of what that meant in 1968. And I was talking to my editor at Kokila, Namrata Tripathi, who we were talking about the Loving ruling. And I realized that that took place, the Supreme Court Loving versus Virginia ruling that banned all laws against interracial marriage in 1967. And my parents got married in 1968. So I was thinking about, if they had lived somewhere else instead of Connecticut, which is where they got married, if they had lived in Virginia, for example, before the Loving ruling, what would they have done? Would they have not gotten married? Would they have moved out of the state? And I started thinking about the choices they would have had to make, and how the fact that my own parents' marriage would have been considered illegal in some states before 1967 is really hard to wrap my head around. And so I wanted to write a story, not so much telling my parents' story, but a story for young people where I could explore both sides of my family and a little more of the Jewish side of my family. So I created Ariel, a Jewish young girl, the main character, whose older sister falls in love with an Indian college student, and how her own parents react to that, and how it really changes the dynamics in their family as Ariel is sort of connecting to the larger world with her identity and kind of seeing what that all means in a new way. And part of why I wanted to write this book as well was to sort of have this experience of what Ariel's older sister and her fiance and eventually husband Raj goes through during this time, and what Leah goes through as far as doing something that her parents don't approve of, and Ariel trying to understand why her parents feel the way they do, and that everybody has to kind of rethink what they thought was right and evolve and try to sort of be there for their family. So I wanted all of that seen. I wanted a young person who either doesn't have anything in common with Ariel or has a lot in common with Ariel to kind of understand that story. So it means so much to me that you've recognized the book in this way. It's such a personal book for me and such a personal journey writing it. So I'm sending so much gratitude for this honor. The second time I've been honored by the Judy Lopez Memorial Award Committee. So I appreciate it, and I'm glad I'm going to be with you live, which may be at the same time that this video airs in September. So thank you.
Congratulations to all of our extraordinary winners of this year's Judy Lopez Memorial Award for Children's Literature. And thank you to our publishers and our selection committee. To stay connected, visit our website, judylopezaward.org, where you can learn more about our work and purchase this year's winning books. I'd like to give a big thank you to Children's Book World for hosting us this year. Thank you for joining us virtually, and we look forward to seeing you again next year.